Greetings, 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 good people, and welcome to another edition of 101 Live. I'm your host, Risikat Okedeyi, and today in the building, man, listen. Actually, before we start, let me rewind. Wanted to make a quick announcement. In case you don't know, I am actually one of the co-founders of a really cool collective of herbalists called Strobe Apothecary. And beginning next Sunday, March 21st through the 27th, we are going to be hosting a self-preservation week. This was an idea that I had that I brought to the group that they were like, let's do it. And it's really about you choosing one thing that you can do for 7 days as a means of self-preservation. If you want to find out more details, go to strobeapothecary.com. I will definitely include all that information in the description below. But next week, there will be no show because part of my self-preservation is to get to bed early. So I got to practice. So with that being said, now we get on to our guest. So we went to school together. We are Black Terps. She is a Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter. She is an amazing vocalist, an all-around just grounded person, and now an actor. So we're going to get all in Wayna's business. Please welcome to the show, Wayna. Hold on now. Let me get you in here. Hello.
Hey, what's up?
How are you?
So good to see you.
Good to see you. Looking all fabulous. Oh my gosh, his hair is giving me life.
Girl, let me tell you,
Listen.
It's amazing what a little powder can do.
Listen, thank goodness for a little powder because I'm having an allergy attack, everyone, which is why I look puffy in the face. So,
sorry.
It's all good. If I make you bigger so I can sneeze, that'll be why.
Oh, girl.
But I'm drinking my tea and I've taken my herbs, so I think we're gonna be good. All right, Wayne, are you ready for me to get in your business?
Get in my business. Let's do it.
Okay. So I'm minding my business. And I talked to Elise Perry. I was like, hey, Elise,
nice.
What are you up to? She's like, I'm on the set for Wayna's thing. I was like, what thing? She's like, you are going to love it. I was like, girl, what is it? She's like, I can't tell you yet, but just it's going to be dope. It's just going to be dope. And it's like in advance of coming to America, I was like, all right. Did not expect what I saw with the Housewives of Zamunda. And I was like, yo, you've always had you've always been multi-hyphenated. I learned that from Julia Mallory last week, so I'm using that word. Shout out to Julia. But your acting chops in this parody, listen. Yeah, I was like, oh my God, she is playing crazy really good right now. And the way that you deliver, it is so much fun. One, I'm absolutely not surprised that you're brilliant at it because we went to school together and I know what you're capable of. But two, this is just another example of what I love about how you have managed your journey, like on your own terms. And this is an amazing pivot. Like it's inspired. And as a cultural architect, I'm always looking to see what people are doing that kind of is a touchstone. And I think that once this really gets out into the world, people are going to like be all over themselves. Like, where's the next episode? So before we talk about that, let's go back. We went to school together, Black Terps.
Yes.
And I knew you could sing, but I didn't know that you could that you were really pursuing it until we ran into each other at Club 5.
Oh my God.
Ritsiana look, I'm about to go back. Ritsiana was hosting, I think there were these weekly sets where artists could perform. And you did a song about rose-colored glasses.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, you were there. Wow.
I was there because I was like, oh shit, that's Wayna. I know Wayna. I went to school with Wayna. And I knew she could sing, but I didn't know that you were pursuing it. At what point did you decide, like, let me really go at this, like do this properly?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that. But before I do, I just want to give you a big, huge props because just as you remind me of those days back at University of Maryland, the same just in charge, clear, powerful woman that you guys see right now is the same woman that I saw hanging out in the lobby of Roy Rogers at the Student Union, however many years ago, leading Dance Africa, and oh my God, and just to see this iteration of you is beautiful, and that you're so creative and powerful and pulling other women up and pulling up Africa. So listen, shout out to you for everything.
I received that. Thank you so much.
Amen. So the question was, why did I how did I become like an actual thing?
Right. Because let's be honest, African parents aren't really, they're like, arts, you want to do arts for why? Why are you doing arts? And so we all get our degrees first because that's the requirement because you have to show that you've gone to school. But at what point were you like, you know what, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, it was hard. It was a real shift. I mean, I have so many memories of my childhood, just my mom like working her butt off, working 2 jobs, weekends, nights, going to school and saying, "I'm doing this for your education. I'm doing
Right,
it for your education." And so what does that mean? You don't get an education to become an artist, you
right,
got to become a lawyer or something. And even though she never was like, "This is what you have to be," it
right,
was this expectation like I can't let her down.
right.
And so I didn't. I did what I was supposed to do. I
Mhm.
finished my degree in English. I got a job working as a writer in the White House. And pretty much immediately I was miserable in
Yeah.
spite of doing something that, made her proud and might have been considered impressive to other people. That wore off pretty quickly. Like
Mhm.
after about the third month, you're like, okay, I made
Right,
everybody happy. Now what?
right.
And it just compelled me. And so I would like sneak off on my lunch breaks and go see artists that I loved, like Indie and Angie Stone, and when they were doing their signings at the Kent Mill Records that was down
Yep.
in the White House. And it was just always clear to me, this is who I am. I never had any question about that. This is what I want to do. Was just, how much am I willing to disappoint my family or
Mhm.
potentially disappoint my family? It was always that. And
Right,
then it just got to a point where I was like, I can't not do it.
right,
This is who I am. And my fear of hurting them, my desire to be in alignment with who I am and to fulfill what was just in my soul was bigger than my fear of hurting them
right.
and my fear of failing.
Mhm.
And it just got to a point where I was like, this is what I got to do. And I was just going to do it. And nobody was going to tell me I wasn't going to do it. And
Right.
so I did.
You did it. You
Mhm.
did it. And I remember that first album release because back in the day when we were doing album releases, people actually came to the album release. And you had to email people. I'm going to sound like an old granny. You had to email people and get people to come after work. It was a thing. And that thing was packed. I think you sold out of all your CDs.
Yes.
Because
Yeah,
I was like, it was amazing. It was it was one of the largest turnouts I had ever seen for, and this is back in the day when you would actually go to CD Depot, put in all your artwork and
That's
have your
right.
CD press, and they
Oh
would
my
come to your
God.
house and you had to sell them out of the trunk of your car or at shows. Like you literally carried around your merch with you and you
Yep.
sold out of everything.
Yeah, it was so good. Everyone came out to support, and it just showed there was a hunger
Yeah.
for that sound, and people wanted to see it. And there were so many people who supported me then and now, and I'm just so grateful, including you.
Well, the thing is, it's undeniable, your songwriting skills, and then at some point you start producing, and you're working with low budget, and it's like, what is going on? And watching you just expand. Like one of the things I've appreciated about your journey is the expansion. Like you never do the same thing twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we all have to keep growing, and then the other thing too is to just stay home, like keep people around you who are better at something than you do. Like I think that if there's one thing that I feel proud of is that I always surrounded myself with people who inspired me, and I always was willing to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes you grow. It makes you come out of your comfort zone, and it also makes you get inspired. So yeah, I credit people like Low Budget and people like Elise, who was such a guiding force in realizing what I was imagining for this Housewives of Zamunda, that, if you got to align yourself with people who are doing something that scares you a little bit,
Yeah.
and then that's going to make you better.
Now, the whole time you're doing this, you a whole wife on top of it.
Yeah.
And then you
Girl.
became a whole mother
Mm-hmm.
again. And I wonder, because a lot of folks, like at the time that, you were really getting started, there were other folks who were, being married and being an independent artist in our world wasn't a big deal. Like you just did it. And there was just this understanding of this is what I do. But you were always very clear that family was important and family was first. And I wonder what when you were making decisions around producing and expanding and even touring, how that played into your decision making.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a huge factor. I mean, I'm fortunate that I have a very supportive husband who always from the beginning got that this was who I am and saw it as his responsibility almost as much as mine to facilitate that. Like we had this understanding among us. So that is huge. And I can't imagine doing it without that willingness and a family that also, knew from the time I was little that I was always singing and doing stuff. So yeah, I think the support was key for me, but there was also an internal reckoning. There's also a space that I had to create for myself. And I'm still learning this now, regardless of what your responsibilities are and your dreams for your family, you have to have that same vigilance and protection of yourself. Just like you were saying in the beginning, how you create the space for yourself, you carve out rituals that you have to do in order to keep your head on straight. And I think this was part of it. It was like making this sacred space for me to do what I wanted to do for me, not just as a giver, to everyone else.
And how do you learn that? Because I think that often, particularly when as children, as girls, we are conditioned to be selfless. You talk about your mom often and how hard she worked and how it was very clear, I'm doing this so that my child can move and run faster than I did. And there's a self-fullness in the way that you operate that has given you the space to create such amazing stuff. Where do you think how did you come to that?
I think really it comes from the pain of denying it to yourself. So you know what it feels like when you self-sacrifice and you're drained and you're out of alignment. And then you realize this is not how it's supposed to go. And you also see women around you who have done that, I mean, I can look at so many of my mom's peers and see how they've given their whole, they've done everything for everyone else. And there's so many things they never were able to do. And then they leave this earth that way, know? And so what are you going to do? I mean, my aunt, my mom's sister, was a pretty extraordinary woman. She was one of the first women to attend Addis Ababa University, in the first class of women to attend Addis Ababa University. She had a pretty impressive job as a young professional woman in Addis Ababa in her era. And she came to the States and, studied and got her degree. And they told her she could only get one degree and that she could only study education or nursing.
This is being your family. Her family said this.
No, the sponsors. It was like USAID or some government organization that was sponsoring her to get her graduate degree in the States. And she was only allowed to choose those two majors, and she chose education, but then behind their back, she studied political science at the same time and got 2 graduate degrees within 2 years, and came back to Ethiopia and had to fight for them to honor the second one, because they said, as a woman, this is not something we need you to know how to do. It's political science. What do you need a political science degree for? So I think seeing women seeing some women break out and do the thing that they were not expected to do or encouraged to do was a huge inspiration to me. And then also seeing the women who did what they were supposed to do and felt like they left something on the table, didn't get to have the full experience of themselves. And that's painful, you know.
But it also takes a certain amount of it's, I don't know how to say it. It just, because there are so many of us who just do what we're supposed to do, and I remember telling my dad, after trying to be a pharmacy technician, I cannot do this. I've done everything I can, and I have not gotten into one pharmacy school. And he was like, well, you've tried. Go ahead and do what you want to do. And I was like,
wow.
Well, hell, if you would just let me do what I wanted to do from the beginning. And so part of it is that, in this age now that we live in, women, I think young girls have so many more opportunities to express themselves. While I think we had opportunities that, that were expanded from our mothers, there was still this sense of, okay, let me go do what they told me to do first. And then, now I think these young girls are like, my nieces and nephews are like, nope, I'm doing it now. And it's like, right? It's fantastic. But I also think having a weird auntie who walks around with bindies on and, you know, has TV shows is something that helps them realize, like your aunt, that there are other ways to be. As a mother now, what is it that you want to make sure that your children understand in the way that you've lived your life? What are ways that you are encouraging them to see what they want and go for it now? I mean, they're babies still, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I tell one of my affirmations every morning is the best way I can care for my children is to care for myself. So I just try to do what gives me joy and to take care of myself and then be a model for them, because you know how it is. They don't do what you teach them to do.
Right.
They do what you do. They're really watching you. So, you know, I recognize I have a real serious responsibility, and I can see it when I do something different, like in writing this skit for Housewives of Zamunda, you know, just in watching me do that. Now they are writing their own skits. Nice. and acting out, you know, little characters and playing dress up. And this is something that they didn't do before I did that. So right. This is, you know, the more permission I give myself to come out of my box, the more they do it for themselves. And I also feel like I am not, even though I have been on this journey, I still have that voice in the back of my head that says, you know, you have to put them first and you have to sacrifice yourself. So right now I'm in a self mode. Like I have to reinforce that, you know, I have to reinforce that within me and get that to a point where I'm not battling demons in the back of my mind. And then I can be a better, you know, example for them, because that's what's going to influence them more than anything.
How do you battle those demons? Like, how do you push them back?
Girl, let me tell you, I have the little corner right here. I mean, this is my little meditation corner. I don't know if you guys can see it over there. You see the thing coming down? That is my little space.
I love it. Go in there. The curtain. Don't bother. Yeah.
Yes. Do not bother me when I'm in this space. I have my, you know, my affirmations that I do every day that I listen to as I fall asleep. I read Course in Miracles every morning, and I journal. I've started running, and I listen to podcasts, like very inspirational, empowering podcasts about women's mindsets and about business and finances, all the things I'm trying to build. I spend a lot of time working on myself, and I can feel that it works. It shifts your mindset. I practice visualizations. You know, this is the work that goes into undoing false beliefs that are really what's holding us back. It's not the competitiveness of an industry. It's not, other people. It's really our mindset. It's everything is here that's creating our world. So that's where we have to start to change our experience.
Like, listen, people talk about it and you're doing it. And it's fascinating to hear you with such clarity say, these are the things that I do. Hope you all are taking notes, because she's listed all the things that you're doing. Take me back to when you decided to tour with Stevie Wonder.
Yeah. Oh man, that was such a blessing from just the universe. I went to go see Songs in the Key of Life at the Verizon Center. And it was one of those moments where it's like, okay, this is just why you want to be an artist. This is like the exact type of, impact you want to have on the world. And I was so inspired. And I was fortunate enough to meet Stevie early in my career, and I had, stayed connected with him over the years. So I called him and I told him how inspired I was by the show, how much it blew me away, and, kind of left it at that. And then a few months later, he called me back and said that one of the singers wasn't going to be joining them, and did I want to join the tour? And I was like, yes. Yeah. So, and that was, just so joyful, Kat. I mean, I can't even tell you, like, literally my favorite album of all time is Songs in the Key of Life. My favorite artist is Stevie Wonder. So it was every day I was just like a light bulb, like you just couldn't take the smile off my face. And, there were times when we were not supposed to be on stage. We didn't have to be on stage. He did half the show, by himself. So you know, we could have gone to the dressing room and hung out and had a glass of wine or whatever, but I didn't leave. I was, if I didn't have to be there, I was sitting right on the side and soaking it up. And it didn't matter how many times I saw him do those songs. It was just, it was joy. It was so much fun and so joyful.
So I agree. So I was thinking this when Elise posted it. I love it. Yeah, I just picked up the phone, called Stevie Wonder, be like, hey, Stevie, I totally loved your show. Like, your life is, I love it. I love how, with the ease with which he's like, yeah, Stevie. Like, okay.
Oh, girl.
So talking to Yana Gregory about her dad. She's like, yeah, that was his dad. Like, oh, okay. All right.
Right.
You know, it's a beautiful
But you know what? The reason why that's possible is because there are some people who just have this aura about them that lift, that make you forget who they are to the world and even to you. And they just make you feel comfortable. And he was one of those people, like just, and there have been other artists who are a lot less impactful who I'm a wreck around.
Right.
But he has this thing that's just like, you know, this surreal thing about him that just makes people melt, makes your defenses melt. And you would feel the same way. If you were chatting with him, you would forget in a few minutes.
Absolutely.
Who he was.
We used to joke that my father looked like Stevie Wonder. They have they have the same sort of head shape. And there was one Grammys we were all watching. I was like, oh my God, Daddy, you look like Stevie Wonder. And for like the rest of the week, we called him Stevie Wonder. But yeah, I can see that. And I wonder, like, what were some big takeaways from that experience?
Man, there were so many. I called it Genius School because he was just constantly teaching, even when he wasn't explicitly teaching. But I think, you know, his humility is huge. I mean, this is a guy who, you know, could have anything or have anyone do anything for him. But he was always so humble and gentle and like giving, you know, he never, you know, he's a person who's like this big. Like if you think about his talent and his capacity, it's this big. But whoever he was interacting with, he met them where they were. And he never acted like he was bigger than them. Didn't matter the situation. And then he was always very good about bringing out what was amazing in other people. And I think that's just the mark of a servant and like a leader, you know, that he was just always, you know, never, you know, always trying to bring out what was beautiful in everybody else. And, you know, he taught me so many things about, you know, being like, for instance, I'll say this. One time we went to dinner, a group of us at this Ethiopian restaurant called Injera in Alexandria. And we were hanging out there eating injera, and a producer, a wonderful, amazing, extraordinary Ethiopian producer named Abagaz Shiota came in the room. You know, heard he was there and came in the room. Now Abagaz is like the Quincy Jones of Ethiopia, and he's our hero. But you know, to Stevie, he had never heard of him before or worked. You know, clearly didn't know how important he was to us. Abagaz is also the first producer I ever worked with. So, you know, I have a special place in my heart for him. So when he came in, I popped up and I was like, oh my God, it's Abagaz. And I ran around the table and went to say hi to him. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to greet him and bring him over to say hi to Stevie. Do you know that Stevie, when I jumped up and ran over, he grabbed his his right-hand guy and said, take me over to him. I want to meet him. He got up, his 60-year-old, you know, icon self, got up out of his chair and went to go meet him and wanted to shake his hand and learn who he was and what he did. I mean, you know, it's just, that's the kind of humility that I mean, and also respect for other genres and and Africa and you know, people who are advancing their craft to, like, you know, I think that humility and that grace, you know, was one of the biggest takeaways. And he also was the hardest worker, like, you know, would practice, I mean, like playing constantly, you know, even at his level of excellence, constantly learning and elevating. And he was also never afraid to make a mistake in front of everybody. There's so many things. I could probably do a whole segment on this.
You should totally do a whole segment, what Stevie taught me, because I think that would be, I mean, to be that close to the sun and you know, and learn so much and walk away feeling like fulfilled by it. I think is a really powerful message. Especially because sometimes you meet your heroes and they're disappointing. And no one that has ever met Stevie has come back to say he wasn't anything less than everything that you said. So I love that you had that opportunity. When it was time for that piece to be over and it was time to go back home, like, what was it like being on the road? You know, you're a mom, you're a wife, you have these other responsibilities, but you have this passion and this calling to be on the stage. Was there a conflict, or was like, did you compartmentalize things? What does that look like for you?
It was really hard, and it was very, it was a big strain on me and on my family. It was not an easy thing. Thankfully, I wasn't gone that long that it was, too much for us to handle, but it definitely required a sacrifice. And again, that was, I went on tour with him after I had, been pretty much at home for like 4 years, like just taking care of the kids. So it was, at the same time, I had this point of reference, like, I have given so much and this is something that I need to do for me. And I remember when I called my husband to tell him about what Stevie had offered, I was like, I want to go. He was like, of course you're going, Right. So it was like this shared understanding, like this has to happen. But did it take a toll on us? For sure. I mean, it was painful being away from your kids. I mean, my daughter had just turned 1 when I went on the road. Right. And my oldest was, 4 and dealing with, not being the only thing in my life. Right. And then now all of a sudden there's another little girl, and now I'm working again. And, but thankfully I had support, I had a nanny, I had my mom, and my husband was always great. But, nobody can fill the place of your mom. So you just had to, there were parts that hurt, and I won't sugarcoat that. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. It was really worth it, because now, they kind of get it. Like at the time, of course they didn't, but now they do get it. I think it's up to every woman to just figure out, like, what is the balance that they can deal with, because you got to accept there's going to be some part of you that you're going to miss out on something. Shonda Rhimes says this when she talks about how she says, if you see me succeeding in one area of my life, I'm most certainly failing in another. Right. If you see me walking the carpet at the Emmys, I'm missing my daughter's preschool presentation or something like that. And that is the reality of it. The question is, what is the right balance for you? And what permission do you give yourself, and what permission do you give every other woman to find whatever balance that is for them? Yeah. Without judgment.
That piece of permission is real. Like that's a big thing, giving yourself permission to go see about some things, to go try. And I think that I've watched you do it, and I know that there's been sacrifices, but what I love about it is there's this, I don't know if you're doing it all, like if it's, you sit down and you figure it out, but you seem to have this very balanced way of going in and out of that space. And I can tell, like, when you enter back into the music space, it's like, okay, it's time for me to come back into the music space. It's too long. It's very Sade-esque, I have to say. I'm gonna go live my life, but then when I'm full up and I need to go ahead and put something out, I'm gonna do it. And so what was do you remember actually making a decision to say, okay, I'm gonna take a break from music and focus on the family, or is it something that happened gradually and you were like, oh shucks, I'm taking a break?
That's such a smart question. It was not a conscious decision. No, it was just a sense like my family needs this right now, and I just have to respond to this. This has to be priority number one. And then when you sort of feel like they've reached a stage where they've gotten what they need, and then you also recognize that you have a growing need for something, then you go toward that need. I don't think I've always balanced it. I don't know that I don't have any, that I'm not looking back and saying, oh, could I have done that faster or done this? I'm going through that too, but I don't, it's never been a conscious, I think my spirit has always like just followed where I felt like the greatest need was.
Right. And that's such a that is, Maria Luz mentioned, she appreciated your transparency, but that's powerful medicine, knowing where the need is. And I think when you look at it that way, it reminds me of a conversation I had with Jasmine Smith. She's like, I no longer seek balance, I seek harmony.
That's beautiful.
Listen, when she said it, I was like, yeah, I'm keeping that. I'm tucking that in the heart and I'm holding it. She's like, she's like, I don't seek balance, I seek harmony. And I think that that's what you're doing, where you're kind of, you're flowing. And so we flow back into Housewives of Zamunda. And what I love about it is you're unafraid to poke fun at yourself, which to me makes the best parodies. Like, I don't necessarily care for Kevin Hart, but House Husbands of Hollywood, that thing had me on the ground because he clearly was aware of like what he appeared to people, and he was willing to like make fun of himself. So when I saw the whole thing, I was like, I cannot stand this. This is so amazing. But because it's powerful medicine to be able to laugh at yourself, but also pull, like, to take the obvious. Yeah, I've been away. I've made decisions and I'm okay with it. Pour water to the sippy cup. Just brilliant. Talk to me how this comes to be. How did you land on this as a vehicle for your next project?
Well, I was going to this Grammy event and I dressed up in this very cool vintage African inspired skirt. And then this, I had this big medallion, this like Ethiopian Lion of Judah medallion. And I was like, oh, this is just like, this totally encapsulates how I the things that I love. It's like, I have this I Love Lucy's, African I Love Lucy kind of dress on. And then I have this, gangster, like Ethio, Lion of Judah, Bob Marley-esque thing. And then I was like, oh, this is like Housewives meets Ethio gangster.
Right.
And then I started thinking like, that's when the idea first came, and I was like, Housewives, like Housewives of Zamunda. And I picked Zamunda because, I wanted it to feel inclusive of every African. Right. And so that's where the idea came from. And really, I wanted to laugh. I needed to laugh. I needed to not take things so seriously, myself so seriously, and everything that was happening in the world so seriously. And so that was the real inspiration. Like, if I want this, somebody else probably wants this too. So let me just think of what would make me laugh and try to, put it on camera.
Mm-hmm. And so why did you choose the Housewives sort of framework for this?
Well, my mom was a, sort of African suburban socialite, and the last time I went to Ethiopia, I did a whole photo shoot that was inspired by that. It was like, in her era, it was like Jackie O, they loved that style and they want to do that, but be African in representing that. And so I was just surrounded by, our old home in Ethiopia and, some of her old jewelry and things like that. And I thought I want to do this tribute of what those women lived and looked like. And, it kind of made me laugh to think like that was their picture of being a socialite at the time. And now the picture of being a socialite is, what these Real Housewives shows, which I think it's there's a sort of like an exaggerated, sort of ridiculous version of it. But, for them, like, that was the aspiration for a lot of African women to be able to volunteer for the PTA and drive your car, in the downtown and be this like westernized, African, lady of style or whatever. Right. So, I wanted to pay tribute to the class of that era, and then just, bring it to our world.
Right. Well, you did it, and you have an amazing cast of housewives that you bring along with you, including Deborah Bond, which was so much fun to see. That was so fun.
She was so fantastic.
It was like, oh, this is fun. How much Housewives did you have to watch to really get the genre? Like, how much did you study that genre of reality?
Honestly, I don't even know if I've watched an entire episode from beginning to end. I actually haven't. But I did watch Flavor of Love. Like, if you ask me what my reality junkie TV was back in the day, Flavor of Love was my jam.
Flavor
I
of
never
Love
missed
was
a season.
dangerously addictive. I was like, this is not a good thing. And I don't know why I keep watching it, but come on, MTV, let's go. It was.
Oh my God.
It was crazy.
Yes.
I mean, we're from the real world, real reality show sort of space. And so it's a bit different. But when you were imagining the different characters, did you already have the people in mind, or did they find you?
I did, but almost none of the people that I originally imagined turned out to be the people in the cast.
Okay.
And so I had every character was inspired by somebody I knew. And I probably went to that person. That's what I did, actually. I went to that person that inspired it and asked them to play it. And most of them could not do it. The 3 people that I approached couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. And it just turned out that the exact right people did come to the table at the right time. So it was a very amazing lesson in just trusting the universe to just kind of bring it all together, bring together the pieces that you can't control,
Right.
So.
Well, you are there, you're shooting this, and let's take a step back. One of the things that I like is how you write in the whole Janelle Monáe thing. Yes. Because you guys were nominated for a Grammy at the same time. And when you were thinking about you're bringing very personal things into this, and you are really in this character.
Yes, girl. I told you I was doing it for me first. It's like everyone else is next. I'm the first one I have to make laugh.
So is when you write, because it's Layla, right? I think that's
yes.
Yeah. So when you write Layla, are you pulling out because I was like, is this like the petty version of Wayna? Like if Wayna could be really publicly petty, would this be it? Because you're way too gracious to be petty in public. But
yes, that would be accurate. If I completely gave in to every dark, feeling I had and just put it all out there, yes, that's what I would look like.
And when you were, I love that scene where she's like, I bought her the Janelle Monáe doll. Like, look, I'm not mad, I'm not bitter, and then you're just, oh my God, it's fantastic.
Because it's real. Right. Because it's real. Because my daughter really did love Hidden Figures and was obsessed with Janelle Monáe. And I was like, do you even recognize, that this is your mother is, but she just, and so that was somewhere in the back of my mind.
So when you pull these bits out and you perform this, like, is there a release? Like, does it feel like, oh, okay.
Yes, especially when you're always trying to be bigger than those feelings,
Right.
But it was funny. Elise will tell you that we did one take and she was like, we got it. And I was like, let me do one more.
Right.
And it just, I kept, because it felt so good to just get it out. And then and then at the end, and the wonderful thing is, when you do get it out, you feel, you don't feel it anymore at all. Like even that quiet little thing in the back of your mind, you don't feel it anymore. And that's a really great feeling, to just, I think every woman, we compare ourselves and we just go through this is just the fact of being a woman. And when you can look at another woman shining and say to yourself and genuinely in your heart feel like, oh man, that was meant for her and she got what was meant for her. And that's great, because if she got what was meant for her, that means what's meant for me is on its way to me. And really feel like that and not not carry resentment or fear or jealousy. I mean, all of that is a great place to get to that. And whatever we have to do to get to that place, we got to do.
Well, then I have to ask that question. Were you aware of that resentment or, that undergird of like, I feel some kind of way that is sort of, I mean, because I remember when you got the Grammy nom and I remember when you went and we were all looking at your pictures like, oh my God, look at Wayne's on the red carpet. It was a whole thing. And I think at the time, is that when they did the Urban Alternative? I think that was that the right.
Yeah.
So we knew that it wasn't going to necessarily be televised because Grammys shade. But I don't think I realized that Janelle Monáe was in the same category until I watched this. I remember her being nominated, but I didn't realize that you were up against her. And so when you do this, is there I mean, there's a sense of relief, but how long you've been carrying that for this long?
No. Okay. So let me explain. So at the time, I genuinely was such a fan of hers that I was genuinely honored to be in her company. And we did a show together at in LA in Grammy week. And afterward, I remember Kokai and I looked at each other. We killed it. Kokai and I killed it.
Of course you did.
and then she came and killed it. And and I remember him and I looking at each other and we were like, we're not, I mean, if she wins, like I'm not even gonna be mad. Like this is, so there was that. And I remember telling her after, how fearless she was and how amazing she was. And that was came from a very genuine place. I think the only thing that I felt over time was watching, because at that point our careers were, she was always like sort of a more established artist, but we were like there together. And then we just made different choices. She made a choice to develop and build her career, and I made a choice to focus on having a family. And so, because I was pregnant like within maybe 6 months of the Grammys. So, I think if anything, seeing her trajectory is just sort of shows you like, okay, these were my choices and these were her choices. And if I had any, questions about my choices, which of course I did, we all do. It just kind of was highlighted in seeing, her success. But I always, I can't say that I felt, I never, it was always, I always recognize these are choices that I made for myself. And I also always celebrated seeing her be who she is and be amazing and wanted that. Even, long before I had, made any choices to do something differently. So
did the Grammy open things up for you where opportunity, like, because I think the assumption is when you get Grammy nominated that all of a sudden the doors open and the floodgates and offers here, there, and the other. Did you find that when you were nominated, because you get to be able to say that, like from now on forever and ever, did you find that, in that moment that things were opening up for you in a way that you had hoped?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a huge boost, and it opened a lot of doors and still opens doors. But I think it's, those things, it's again, it goes back to what we were talking about before, that it's your mindset and your work ethic are what create what happens in your life, and not, any milestone that you achieve. So those things are there, but you are constantly creating what you want to experience based on what's inside of you. And that's, that is way more powerful than an accolade or a recognition that somebody gave you at some point. And, I think I've always, I felt like that was something that I kind of conjured in my mind. I remember vividly when I met I was doing an in-store tour at FYE, and a woman came and bought my CD, and she told me how her daughter had been nominated in that category, and she was an artist, and this was her name. Look her up, and she wished me luck. And I had never heard of this artist, and I didn't even know that it was possible that somebody could not be a famous star and be nominated for a Grammy. And I thought, well, if somebody else can do it, then I can do it. And it was literally the very next year that I was nominated. So I felt like, this was something that when my mind opened up to embrace a new level or a new experience, I created it, and the universe created it and helped me create it. And so I could do that tomorrow, and so I don't put the power in the thing, I want to keep the power. And that's to me where the next iteration of me or the next evolution is gonna come from me, not from the world or the industry.
So well said, as always. So well articulated. Before we went live, I told you I was going to remind you of something. I was thinking about, the fact that I was going to be talking to you today, and like I have this tendency, for whatever reason, there's certain things that I remember. Like I have a weird memory because there's certain things I'm like, I don't remember that, but I'm like, on this day at this time. Do you remember what you said when you ran for was it called Miss Black? Was it Miss BS?
Yes, Miss Black Unity.
Miss Black Unity. You asked a question, I think, about a hero. And it was funny because I was there supporting a friend who was in the pageant, so I was rooting for her. But when you answered this question, I was like, "Ah, shit, she won." This is even before I think you had already sung, and oh no, maybe you hadn't sung yet. But you answered this question, and there was like a pin drop, and then this roar. It was an amazing answer. Do you remember what you said? Do you remember what the answer was?
I do. It was about motherhood. I think they said if you could choose your role in life, what would it be?
Yep.
Which is ironic, right? Considering our whole conversation right now.
Not ironic at all. Full circle. I was like, she called that in those years back. Because I remember when you said it, you talked about your mother and how she inspired you, and that if you could just be as good a mother as she was, you would feel like your life was fulfilled. I almost passed out. I was like, this is an answer. Like, this is an answer. And so when I see you now, I'm like, you did it.
Oh, you're so beautiful. So sweet to say that. You're so sweet to say that. Yeah, it's amazing to know that this is, I remember that night when they asked that question, almost every contestant had mother in their list of roles. Like this is inherent to we are, as for a lot of women, it is inherent to we are to want to be a nurturer and a mentor and a lover and and that's really, man, that's wow. You're giving me goosebumps just realizing that. Like, wow, that's crazy. I didn't even put those things together.
When I know the people I'm going to interview and I have history with them, I like to get in their business and dig stuff out.
Yes.
But I was sitting there, I was like, oh my God, she did it. She said this, because that was one of the best answers I've ever heard someone in a pageant give, because it was so, everybody was nervous, and you just had this air of like, I know exactly what I'm going to say. And you said it, and everybody was like, oh my God. And at this time, to be touting motherhood as your goal at the age that we were at, when everybody's in college and everybody's trying to do, your answer just, it was beautifully resonant. It brought in, why your mother was so important to you. And it wasn't like, oh, my mother is so important to me. It was like it was a really expansive conversation. It was a really expansive thought. And so when I was thinking, I was like, oh, she did it. That's full circle. That's really a full situation.
You're tugging at my heartstrings right now.
Like, my job. I called it. I feel like I've done my job. No, but
I'm trying to keep it together, but you really are tugging at my heartstrings right now.
I wanted you to know that, because I think that everything that you have, you've been able to manifest. You talk about all of the stuff that you do to keep yourself clear, and this harmonious. And shout out to Jasmine Smith, who's watching. I don't know that part, where I told her how you said you weren't seeking balance, you were seeking harmony. So everybody's going to just go seek harmony now. But I feel like you operate in that way. And I think that it's important that people understand that, because oftentimes as women, we do feel like we have to choose. And we're told you can't have it both ways. You can't have it all. Right. And I feel like, for good or bad, you've been able to manage and have most of it. And I think that's a win.
Oh, thank you, girl.
And now you're a damn actor, because let's talk about this movie.
Yes.
So I mean, you out here, the other side, when did you have time to do that in the middle of a panorama?
Well, we actually shot before the pandemic, and they edited it pretty quickly, but it was right when They See Us came out. And I was literally, I was just watching. I remember when they were advertising it, and I watched it the very first week it came out, and I think I watched it twice. And then I got a call from one of the producers saying, we're doing this movie, and the lead actor is Ethan Herisse from When They See Us. And I was like, you're playing. Like, I was like, he's right, what? Right. He's an extra who came across the stage for a second. They were like, no, he's the actual actor. And I was like, wow, how amazing that they would tell this very authentic story about an Ethiopian boy who ages out of the orphanage system and then need someone to play the mother of the orphanage and reach out to me. And I had never really been doing acting, and then, so I mean, I had acted when I was young, but, not
Right.
never on this level. So it was just one of those things where the universe was like, here you go. And so so it was amazing. And I read the script and I loved it. And it was, these young filmmakers who are just so talented and disciplined and just doing amazing things at a young age. And so I just jumped into it, went for it, went and flew out to Ethiopia with the production crew, and me and Ethan and the production crew. And we had this amazing experience. We went to the orphanages, we saw the kid, we met the young man who inspired the director and the writer, and I met with the den mothers who led one. We went to 2 different orphanages, and I met with both the den mothers, and gosh, they were just so beautiful and regal and just gracious. And so I just jumped in and tried to embody what these women felt like to me, and it was just such an amazing experience. And I was guided by such a great group, and, working with like actual amazing professionals. And it just made me love it. I fell in love with it. It was like a whole other awakening, and I had a moment where when we were performing, where I had that same feeling when I'm on stage and, something is just sort of takes over and you feel like you're in a groove and everyone's with you. I had that feeling, but it was in a scene. So that's when I realized, I was like, oh, this is another expression of that same thing. And it feels just as good, maybe even a little better, because there's a vulnerability in it. There's an honesty and a vulnerability that's required in it, even more than music. So that felt good.
I know it's doing the circuit. I think it's doing the festival circuit now. When can we see it?
It's actually available online. It has been in 10 international festivals since they completed it in 2020. It was accepted into 10, including a couple that are Academy Award qualifying. I'm very excited for the filmmakers for that. And now it's on their website. It's called, which is theotherside.com. Mm-hmm. And you can go and watch the whole short film. It's less than 20 minutes, a very powerful story. And I think you'll walk away from it inspired. It's about brotherhood and family as much as it is about Ethiopia and the orphan crisis there. So I think there's something in it really for everybody. Mm-hmm. And they're working on a feature now. So hopefully it will get picked up, and we'll turn that 20-minute story into a 90-minute or more feature.
Wow, that's exciting. So you've embarked on this new space, and at the same time you've taken these acting chops into other places, and you are now about to release some new music.
Yes. So the whole Housewives of Zamunda storyline just started to inspire songs about each of these characters. And it just started to come to life where, the music was like another expression of these kooky characters. Right. And so I'm exploring that and enjoying telling their story in another way and in a funny way. And so I think it's all going to be woven together, through at some point when the project is released, and we'll have, some of the skits on the album and some of the music in the series, and it's just going to be very, bound up together in the same
package. Well, I, for one, am here for more episodes of The Housewife of Zamunda. So,
girl, yes. Oh my God, some funny things are in store with these characters. You're gonna see more of their
amazing. I cannot wait to see more of their lives, especially Dr. Tayo, because she is here for. She's just snatching people's ways with her PhD and her one goat. I'm totally up with it.
Dr.
I love it. So I am completely. This is exactly what I thought it would be, even with allergy attacks. This was just amazing. Thank you so much for sitting with me. Thank you for continuing to do the good work of being yourself and owning your space. I think there's a lot that we could learn from this episode and from you. So if you ever decided to write a book, I would buy it. Just, just saying.
Well, I would buy your book too, Ms. Pim. Let me say, your questions are just so, oh my gosh, like, Kat, like you just get to the heart of the thing that's like that not everybody's asking about. I mean, you're really asking penetrating questions, and we all appreciate you for doing that, for seeing the story underneath the story, and then the one that's obvious, and also the one that's not obvious. And you're like a real blessing to us. And I hope this platform continues to grow and get bigger and bigger and bless you as much as it's blessing the rest of us.
Man, that was an African prayer right there.
That's all right.
You did that, Auntie. Well done. Well done. I felt that in my bones. I was like, yes, please, I beg, continue.
Shout out to Nigeria, okay? Because I 2 actresses in this shoot that are from Nigeria. Dr. Tayo is Nigerian and Amaka is Nigerian.
Oh yes, we know Amaka is Nigerian. I was like, my sister, well done, Lagos. Amaka's like my favorite because her shade levels are just all the way through the roof. She's fantastic.
Too real. It is too real.
I can only imagine what that set is like. You have got to let me come the next time you guys shoot and interview you.
We would love that. And I have some pictures and stuff to show you the reaction. Yeah, it's so much fun. That's the best.
There's a lot that we could do just in terms, I just have questions. It's like,
yes,
there's a Moon Day Girlfriends. I'm here for all of it. So, good luck with everything. I'm here to amplify whatever you do. I think that everyone needs to go to, where's the best place? Facebook right now, right?
Facebook right now. Yep. Yeah, on Facebook Watch. You can search for it or go to my Facebook page, Wayna Music, WAYNA-MUSIC, and check it out. And definitely follow, and so that you can be the first to know about the next episodes. And it'll be on more platforms too, so you can share it.
Yep, and share. Like, I think that this is one of those things that we just need to help make viral because it's just too good. And Coming to America apparently is the #1 movie, so y'all might as well go ahead and attack that.
The standards, I love it. I love that.
On that note, okay, it is time to cackle out because this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Wayna. Please make sure you follow our Wayna Music on IG and Twitter so you can stay abreast of everything that's happening. Next week starts Self-Preservation Week. So March 21st and 27th will be Self-Preservation Week. I'm not having an actual sort of interview, but I am going to probably do a live or something to kick it off because it's really important. So you're going to choose one thing. You want to choose one thing that they're going to do for 7 days as a way to preserve themselves. It's something that we're doing over at strobeapothecary.com, so you can go there to find out more information. And with that, we are out because this culture ain't gonna make itself. I'll see you all in 2 weeks. Take care, everyone.